Our mom if she didn't stop. Once again the voice said my name even closer this time. It sounded like it was coming from the kitchen/living room area. After that I realized it wasn't my sister playing a trick on me. My great-grandparents on my mother's side own a nice property up in the mountains of West Virginia, which if you don't already know, West Virginia is entirely in the Appalachian Mountains. This property has been in my family for generations. For some context to the property's layout, there are 3 houses, 2 of which are trailers, and then the other one is the main house. The trailers are only used for when family stays over, and my great-grandparents live in the main house. The property is a decent size. There are 2 sheds and a garden. Anyways, while I was around 7 or 8, my mom drove me, my younger sister, and my grandma to go and visit them. When we arrived, we put our stuff in the trailer directly facing the main house. The backstory behind the trailer is that it belonged to my great-grandma's father. All of the furniture inside is from when he was still alive. Nothing has changed since then other than the location. After he passed away, the trailer was moved onto the family property. My great-great-grandfather was a simple coal miner. He kinda looked like a nicer version of Mr. Nevercracker from Monster House. From stories I've heard, he was a very stand-up guy and cared deeply about his family. After we were done unpacking, we went up to the main house and hung out with my great-grandparents. My great-grandma had made dinner, and that's when everyone got to talking. My great-grandma loves to tell stories, especially the ones that have something to do with the paranormal. I might tell some of her other stories at separate times, but one in particular is crucial to the story. My great-grandma started talking about the property ghost. She told everyone the story about when she first encountered him. She had been staying over to check in on her mom, who owned the property before her. While she was doing something in the mudroom at the side of the main house, she saw an old man in long red underwear, hands cupping his eyes, peering into the window, staring at her and just looking around inside the room. This startled her, so she went outside to go tell the man to get off the property. When she walked out the door to go tell the man off, he was nowhere to be found. She then went to her mom's trailer, which sits right next to the main house. She told her about the old man she just saw. My great-great-grandmother, after hearing the story, smiled and explained to her that it was just my great-grandmother's grandpa watching over his property and seeing who will take it over next. So the family lore is that if you see him watching you, you will be the next owner of the property. One afternoon, a couple days later into our stay, me and my sister just hung out in the trailer. We enjoyed watching movies on the old box TV and playing on this old broken exercise machine. We had also brought some coloring books and crayons with us, so we colored and watched TV together most of the day. Then we got bored and for some reason decided to play cleaners and clean the house. We found the cleaning supplies and just swept the floors, mopped, and wiped down the counters. While we cleaned, we turned on the old radio and played a classic rock station. After cleaning for a while, I got a cramp in my leg and decided to lay down in the bedroom my mom was staying in the trailer. While I rested my leg, my sister finished the rest of the cleaning, then turned off the radio. She then came and stayed with me in the bed and we colored and talked. After a little while, she decided to head up to the main house. I would have gone with her, but my leg still hurt, so I stayed and rested. I didn't mind being in the trailer alone. The trailer was quiet after she left, and I sat up against the headboard just coloring in my little book. About 15 minutes later, I was still sitting up coloring in the bed. I remember I had set down my blue crayon, and right after I picked up my green one, I heard a man's voice call out my name. I looked up from what I was doing. It sounded like it came from the other side of the trailer, where the bedroom me and my sister were staying in, and where the door to the trailer is also located. A few seconds later, the same voice said my name, but this time it was a little bit closer. At this point, I thought it was my little sister just messing with me, so I called out her name and told her that I would tell our mom if she didn't stop. Once again the voice said my name even closer this time. It sounded like it was coming from the kitchen/living room area. After that I realized it wasn't my sister playing a trick on me. Once more the same man's voice said my name, this time right outside the door of the bedroom I was in. I screamed and ran to the door. In that whole frenzy, the radio turned on and played the same station me and my sister were listening to while we were cleaning earlier. I screamed even louder while I was hurrying to tie my shoes. I could still hear the man's voice calling my name over the sound of the radio. It sounded like it was coming from the room I had just went from. Both the voice and the volume of the music seemed to get louder as I tied my shoes. After I finished tying my shoes, I bolted out of the door, ignoring the pain of the cramp in my leg. I ran up the hill which the main house sat atop. I could hear the radio blaring in the background as I ran. I never once looked back to see if anything had followed. I just put one foot in front of the other and let my adrenaline take over. I made it to the main house scared and panting. I walked into the kitchen where everyone was having dinner and I was terrified. terrified. After I calmed down, I told everyone what happened after. That my great-grandma had told me they were just talking about my great-great-grandfather who had owned the trailer. I calmed down after that, hoping it was him who was just saying my name. After that whole ordeal, I never stayed in the trailer alone. I waited for my mom to be ready to head to bed before I went down there after what all had happened. I returned to the trailer with my mom, my sister, and my grandma. When we got inside, all the lights were turned on and the radio was still blaring. My mom went over and turned off the radio. Before I went to bed, I watched a movie with my sister and grandma while my mom slept in the room I was in when I heard the voice. I had tried to forget what happened, but I was still anxious from the incident. My grandma began to get tired since she was sleeping on the couch. My sister and I had to go to our room and sleep. Somehow I fell asleep. In the middle of the night, something woke me up. I wasn't sure what it was, but the weird feeling of being watched overwhelmed me. I looked over to my sister's bed and I saw that she was asleep. There was no one in the room except for us. No sounds either. I turned over to the other side of the bed and decided to try and fall asleep when something at the window, partially masked by broken blinds, caught my attention. It was a pair of eyes that were peering into the room that did not seem to be staring directly at me, but at the room as a whole. I could make out a faint silhouette of red. I pulled the covers over my head and froze. I didn't allow myself to move. I stayed like that for a while until I eventually worked up the courage to look. The eyes were gone and I eventually fell asleep. I didn't tell anyone about the last story. I wasn't sure if it was a nightmare or not, and I still can't be certain. I just wanted to see what other people think of this. I have a theory that the eyes peering in the window were the property ghosts. It's been years now and I don't really know what to make of these situations. I've been back many times after and nothing like that has ever happened again.